Spicy, sweet seduction. This is probably many people's go-to fragrance when we talk about the cold weather, spicy, sweet seduction. But I know y'all haven't heard my thoughts on it, and it is an absolute staple in the community. Grab a bevy, get something to eat, and we'll be right back with you. All right. Welcome to the Scent Bubble, guys. I am your host for the very late evening. I'm going to try to keep it down quite a bit. Everyone's asleep in the house. But that's when we normally do these reviews anyway. But it just happens to be quite late tonight. From the house of Viktor&Rolf, we have Spicebomb Extreme. I have a lot of samples, right? As you guys can see by my community post, I get samples in all the time. We're probably sitting on like 40 samples. I've smelled this fragrance a lot, but I wanted to get it again. I wanted to have a fresh experience with it. And this is your go-to spicy, sweet, seductive fragrance. OG Spicebomb is absolutely amazing, but Extreme takes it that much further into the richness category. It's more potent. It's denser, it's thicker, and it doesn't tiptoe around what the OG is going for, which is the spicy, sweet, seductive category. It gets straight to the point, and it is done very masterfully. I haven't put my nose to it in probably maybe half a year. Matter of fact, let's see when this fragrance came out. 2015, so it's been around forever. It is pretty much the staple DNA for what most fragrances draw from when we think about cold weather, spicy amber fragrances. And I'm going to give you my fresh take on Spicebomb Extreme. Now, the good news with a fragrance like this, just so you guys know, is so many fragrances draw from this inspiration, not just in the name brand category, but in niche and clone perfumery, that if you like this DNA, there are many choices. But I feel in the vanilla, tobacco, spicy, amber, sweet category, this is really the main stage when it comes to this, because it's pure to form. It's not trying to go anywhere else. It borderlines gourmand in a sense that if you wear it during the holidays, it will get tastier. Outside of the holidays, though, in cold weather, it just becomes more seductive. We can do holiday, we can do date night specifically is where I think it shines the most. And there's just a real perfection. I think fragrances that have tobacco in them walk a very fine line. This fragrance does that. It executes a note of tobacco that's so perfect, which really gives dimension to spicy amber. We have spice, amber, vanilla, even a touch of powder in its density, which I think duffs out the harshness of the tobacco and makes it smooth. You have cinnamon. Quite masterful. Opening thoughts, this is a banger. My heart wants to give this fragrance a 10 out of 10 just because of what it is and what it represents in the community. But if I'm being honest, I have to technically give it a 9. It checks all of the boxes, but when we walk into the signature category, it's almost unfortunate because so many fragrances smell like Spicebomb. And I don't know which one was first. 2015 is fairly recent. It's only 8 years ago. But it has some complexity, but it's not incredibly dense. in terms of its complexity. It has signature for sure. It has longevity. In the cold weather category, it has versatility. But I think in terms of signature fragrances, this just cannot be given a 10 because for whatever reason, it's just slightly more generic and less versatile than I would hope for. Again, in the sweet spice category, you really have to look no further. This will get the job done. Performance, sillage, projection, performance meaning longevity, 10 plus hour fragrance, wears on the clothes quite heavy. It has some subtle uniqueness in that it has the tobacco and everything, but I think this is a severely above average fragrance, not just a 8, but it does get a 9 because it is really a staple in the community. Let's take a look at the notes and accords. Quite linear, but again, every fragrance note here is pronounced in the fragrance, which is why I like it. Simple seemingly, but it checks all the right boxes nonetheless. Vanilla, cinnamon, tobacco, cumin, bourbon whiskey, saffron. Let's walk through the notes. The vanilla is a great deal of the fragrance, maybe 40-50%. The tobacco, maybe 20% even, not just 10, because you very much get just the tiniest harsh edginess to the tobacco, but overall it's smooth. It's just edgy enough to provide that masculine cutting edgeness to the fragrance so that it doesn't wear unisex. Is it a unisex fragrance? No, it's for men, and rightfully so. The cinnamon is coated all around the fragrance, but it's very smooth. The cumin, I think, is adding to the bite of the tobacco, giving that masculine edge. The bourbon whiskey is very much there in the same amount that cognac is in Angel Share. So it's certainly there. It's soaked in a bourbon whiskey. It's got some bite, but I don't think the bite in this fragrance comes from the whiskey. I think it comes from that tobacco cumin combination, but it's definitely soaked in that sugary, alcoholic, almost sometimes resinous, but so sweet that it's not resinous-y, ambery, woody. It's more the sweeter component to a ambery resin vibe that the whiskey kind of gives off. And then that saffron is just ever so slightly in the back, maybe by about 10%. Again, majority, 40-50% of the fragrance, maybe even 60 is vanilla. And then you kind of have this 20% blend of tobacco, cinnamon, and whiskey. And then you have these accentuating 10-20% sprinkles of cumin complementing the tobacco, saffron kind of making the fragrance robust and pungent. And it's a really good fragrance. Now, we said it was a cold weather fragrance. I do feel that it's ageless. I think it might put a little hair on the chest of a teenager, but I still think teenagers can absolutely rock it because it is so sweet. But that tobacco, cumin, whiskey dimension of the fragrance will make you feel older. I could safely say 20 and up as a fragrance. Cold weather dominant, winter, fall, occasions, date night, semi-formal, and up in the seductive, alluring, appetizing the opposite sex type of category, or even holiday vibes as just a compliment to the room and what it might already smell like. This is a step up from that kind of potpourri, cinnamon, pine cone vibe that you might get. I absolutely love the fragrance. I prefer it as kind of the best fragrance from the Viktor&Rolf Spicebomb line. You know, you have Night Vision, Dark Leather, Infrared, Spicebomb OG. I think there's a few others. But this to me is just bread and butter, the most versatile out of all of them, while still having that robust projection, sillage, and longevity. I do like Infrared. I do like Night Vision. Not the hugest fan of dark leather. I feel it's a bit simplistic. And I do like the original. This is an eau de parfum concentration. And again, I think it's a staple to the collection. The only other thing that I'll mention about this fragrance is the alternatives. There are many alternatives to this fragrance. I'll name a few of them. So the first one that comes to my mind as the best alternative to Spicebomb Extreme, it is about 90% close to Spicebomb Extreme with a little lean towards the Tom Ford fragrance. What is it? Maybe I'll think about it in a second, but certainly like a Tom Ford Noir Extreme or Noir by about maybe 20%. 80% is just pure Spicebomb Extreme. And that is Armaf's Odyssey Homme Eau de Parfum Black Edition. If you want a knockoff that just is right there doing the same thing with the same level of performance, quality fragrance for 20, 25-ish bucks, Odyssey Homme Eau de Parfum Black Edition will certainly get you to the dance and get you smooth sailing. Another fragrance that comes to mind if you're looking for kind of a twist is going to be Cod Lodge Shiaka Blue, which is about a 70% rendition of Spicebomb Extreme mixed with a touch of Bleu de Chanel added freshness. Another fragrance in the wheelhouse, but more of a bubblegummy freshness, more lean towards Bleu de Chanel, but still very much a spicy fragrance is going to be your Bad Boy by Carolina Herrera for Men Carbon, Cobalt Edition. That's another great fragrance. Is there anything else I want to put you guys on? I'm going to be honest. I think Odyssey Homme Black Edition is really your number one go-to alternative to this fragrance. It's affordable. You know, I think it sits around the 80 to 150 category, closer to the $100 price point after tax and all that, sometimes higher depending on where you get it. And I believe it comes in a 50 ml and 100 ml concentration. But yeah, this is a wonderful fragrance, guys. Again, holiday, seduction, date night, nightlife. It would just really shine and just be a safe, alluring, sexy fragrance. I also think some women could pull this off, but I think it is definitely masculine leaning. Again, because it's got vanilla and kind of this ambery, warm, spicy cinnamon and even a touch of powder, I think women could certainly pull it off. Absolutely. It leans a little bit unisex, but it's mostly a masculine, edgy fragrance. So that's Viktor&Rolf Spicebomb Extreme. I definitely think when we talk about dominantly sweet fragrances, I think that on the sweetness meter, I give this about an 8 or 9 out of 10. So it's definitely sweet. But again, I think the complementary notes of cumin and tobacco and whiskey tone it down to give it more masculine properties than feminine. Hope you guys like the review. Let me know below. I think a lot of you guys have probably tried this, but if you do wear this fragrance, let me know the occasions where you've seen it shine the most. I do think the compliment factor on this will be, slightly above average, but it's certainly such a popular DNA that don't expect to get compliments from enthusiasts and FragCom and all of that, because in that regard, it's approaching generic, but nonetheless, in regular fact that 2/3 of the population doesn't even wear fragrance, this will definitely be a head turner for you in the least. So again, this is the Scent Bubble. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, but more importantly, turn on that notification bell so that you can get all of the latest content that we are dropping on a very consistent basis every single day of the week. This is the Scent Bubble. You guys be blessed. Have a nice week.